have a new lens from Nikon. We're going to be testing out the Nikkor 50mm f1.4 out in the field at a real-world portrait photo shoot. I have heaps of photo examples to share with you, a few autofocus video examples as well, so let's go shoot. I'm actually thinking if you wanted to sit here instead. I love like all this green, it's so pretty. Yes, I love that. Oh, that's so pretty. Yeah, I love smiling shots too. If you feel like smiling, please go ahead. Actually, I'll get like a full body shot there. The Nikkor 50mm f1.4 is a full-frame lens for Nikon Z-mount, and for today's review, I'm using it on the Nikon Z6 III. While it's always exciting and a great thing to have more lens options, to be honest, this particular lens is a little confusing in terms of Nikon's lens lineup for their full-frame system, and we will dive into this and figure out where this lens sits and why this lens even exists, but for now, let's take a look at this lens on its own before we get to comparing it. For our photo shoot today, my aim is to share with you as many examples of what this lens can produce in different lighting situations and with different apertures. And I'll get like a little close up here, so you can make a more informed decision and get a better idea at the capabilities and limitations of this lens. I will be sharing the unedited straight out of camera photo first at 100% crop so you can see all the details, and afterwards the edited version of the photo, which I decided to go with my Hazel preset pack to edit this photo shoot as I wanted a lighter touch to the editing today. Actually, yeah, if you wanted to stand in front of it, I'll like cover the mailbox with you. So I like the little bit of the fence. Such a pretty spot. It's so like lush and green. I also want to say thank you to Nikon Australia for lending me this lens, but this video is not sponsored by them. All thoughts and opinions are my own. This 50 f1.4 weighs 420 grams and features a simple design including a focus ring, a customizable control ring, and that is it. There are no other buttons or switches on the lens. What a nice little corner. Spot. Actually, we could do one more if you wanted to sit like up here. We're just gonna get like closer and closer. It is almost the same size and weight as the 50 f1.8 from Nikon, so it's nice to see Nikon are focusing on creating faster lenses that are smaller in size. As a comparison, the 50-1.8 weighs 415 grams. This 50 also has a 62mm filter thread, and Nikon say it is dust and drip resistant. This 50mm f1.4 is capable of taking good pictures, and the images it produces are mostly sharp. I find the further away my subject is, the less detail you can see, but the images where I am closer up to Ginger, you can see lots of detail and clarity on her skin, which is great, and I find those images are really beautiful. Nikon currently have 4 50mm lenses available for their full-frame camera lineup. There is the MC50 f2.8, the 50 f1.8s, the 50 f1.2s, and this 50 f1.4. I did another photo shoot with all 4 of these lenses to be able to give myself a better idea of how this f1.4 lens compares, and we filmed it too, so I will be editing that video soon so you can see all the comparison images as well. Let me know if you have any particular questions you want answered in that video. But to give you an idea right now of where this 50 f1.4 sits, if I had to put in order all of the fast 50mm lenses from Nikon, the 50 f1.2 would be at the top with the highest IQ. Next would be the 50 f1.8, and finally this 50 f1.4. In my comparison video, we will get into more of the details of how each of these sit side by side with lots of photo examples for you to look at too. I'm just cropping above the knees now as well. That's cool. We'll get some shots at f2.8 as well. And then we'll go back to wide open when we get back into the sun. If having a crisp level of sharpness is important to you, this is one of those lenses that benefits from using it at a higher aperture. At f2.8, the photos I captured are nice and crisp with lots of detail, regardless if I'm taking close-up or further away portraits. Like hanging out, waiting for the bus.
Always waiting for the bus.
And then I might do one more if you like lean your hand, your elbow on your knee kind of thing. Yeah. This is like a bit more of a close-up too. It's so pretty. And then we'll go into the sun. Let's cook. So cute. I love where Dan's standing just there. You could replace him. Woo! Okay, now we've got like all the sun behind you. This lens features 9 rounded aperture blades, and I would say its bokeh is probably one of the most prominent characteristics of this lens. Wide open, the edges of the bokeh are nice and round, and as you step your lens down, so at f2.8, you can start to see a very subtle nonagon shape to the bokeh. While the bokeh is smooth and clean on the inside, which I like, there is a lot of chromatic aberration around the bokeh. And I'm going to change my settings. While we're in the sun, I'm going to go back to shooting wide open at f1.4. Oh my god, I love this spot. The bokeh also has quite a prominent look to it, which is a pretty unique characteristic. It reminds me a lot of the bokeh of a vintage lens I used a while back. It looks so similar. This is definitely one of those personal preference aspects of the lens where some photographers will love it and others won't. For me personally, I like bokeh like this sometimes, but maybe not for the majority of my work, as it can look a bit distracting as I shoot in natural locations like this a lot. When we were taking photos on the streets, the bokeh texture doesn't stand out as much. That's cool. You can achieve some really beautiful background to foreground separation with this lens, even when shooting with higher apertures like f2.8. Ginger stands out so nicely in a lot of these locations we were shooting in, and the background to foreground separation is very smooth. I also like the smooth bokeh fallout in the close-up portraits. Speaking of chromatic aberration, this lens does have a bit of CA to keep in mind. It mostly comes through when shooting in bright and backlit conditions. For example, you can see a decent amount of purple fringing in Ginger's hair during these backlit shots here, a little bit around her shoes and clothes as well. There are times when the fringing becomes quite prominent, like that hair example I shared with you, but I would say the majority of my photos had more minimal fringing like these shots here. That's so pretty! This lens also has a beautiful lens flare, which is super soft and hazy. There is some ghosting when taking backlit photos, but I think it looks good. It suits this backlit style of photos. For autofocus, this lens makes use of a stepping motor, and I found it did a pretty good job at keeping up during our portrait session in most scenarios. It's always easier to see autofocus in video mode, so here are a few tests Dan and I did on a different day, also using the Z6 III, so you could take a better look. I'm actually pretty impressed at how it keeps up while we're moving towards and away from the camera. Autofocus does a really good job at staying sticky on the subject. The only time I noticed it slipping up in video, which was also reflected in stills, is during these close-up shots. You can see focus slipping in and out of my eyes as I move slightly around while close up to the lens. The same thing was happening while taking photos, so towards the end of our photo shoot, I took a series of close-up portraits. While I had a lot of photos with focus on the iris, you can see that same slipping happening where we have quite a few out of focus photos as well. Here's a look at a set of consecutive close-ups at 100% crop. You can see that mixture of focus on the iris or Ginger's eyelashes or eyebrows. Whereas when we take a look at a set of photos taken a bit further away, autofocus is much more reliable and consistent. But that is one of the things to keep in mind when you are deciding between a more budget-friendly lens. There will usually be a compromise somewhere, whether it's in performance or image quality. While we take a few more photos, let's talk about the why of this lens. I was actually surprised to see this lens is on par with their 50 f1.8 in terms of image quality and performance. When I first heard about this 50 f1.4, my first thought was they were introducing another flagship prime at the same or slightly less quality as the 50mm f1.2, but in a smaller and lighter build. Instead, Nikon have opted to offer their users another more affordable prime. I think one of the main reasons to go for this f1.4 version over the 1.8 is if you are a fan of its characteristics, you want the custom control ring, or you can find it at a cheaper price point than the 1.8. Don't get me wrong, while this lens has its quirks, you are able to achieve good photos with it. I captured some images I really love from this photo shoot, which will easily blend in with the rest of my portfolio. And then it'd be cool if we could try and get some with these. I think if you're like leaning with your face close to the flowers.
I'll get like a full body shot here. That's really nice.
I think this lens would be more suitable for beginners and hobbyists or photographers who are after that unique look to their images.
I'm gonna lean maybe like your elbow could be cool there.
That's all I have for today's review on this 50. Let me know what you think of it in the comments and which ones were your favorite photos as well. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.